As you all know, the internet and digital technologies have transformed our economy and have disrupted the business models of a number of industries. The Canadian financial services sector is no exception. Emerging technologies are changing the way people bank and raising customers' expectations for better, faster, and more user-friendly mobile solutions. At the same time, new entrants are challenging the traditional role that banks have played in the payment system. Our speaker today will present his vision for the future of Canadian banking. He'll describe how his bank is responding to the impact of new entrants, new technologies, and changing client expectations. Victor Dodig is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the CIBC Group of Companies, one of North America's largest financial services institutions. He has served in that capacity and as a member of CIBC's Board of Directors since 2014. He is a past recipient of Canada's Top 40 Under 40 Award and holds an MBA from Harvard University, where he was a Baker Scholar. After his remarks, Victor has agreed to take a few questions from the audience, so please, as he speaks, take note of any questions you'd like to ask. May I please ask you to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Victor Dodig.
Thank you, Andrea. Thanks so much for that kind introduction. Before I start, I'd like to take a moment to thank the Empire Club, and particularly Dr. Gordon McIver for hosting us today. I'd also like to thank our generous sponsors who I was flanked by, Visa Canada and TELUS, also two great partners and two digital innovators with whom this talk wouldn't have been possible. So I stand in front of you today, and you're all younger than I am, and you're all more savvy than I am, so I'm completely intimidated. I'd only be more intimidated if my 4 teenagers were here rolling their eyes as I went through this speech today, but they're not, thankfully, because they're more savvy and digitally oriented than I am. But I'm going to hopefully present you with a vision of the future of banking and how CIBC plans to play a role in that. So I must confess I've been engaging in some very non-digital activities. As I came in, I signed the book, the Empire Club book, and Andrea was kind enough to show me the history. And the history of this volume went back to 1962. I went to 1965, the year that I was born, and the person that spoke closest to my birthday was the late Queen Mother. So how about that for history? And I think, importantly, as you hear the speech today and some of my remarks, you'll see that understanding our history and what we've accomplished gives us great confidence in what I think we can accomplish in the future. And since becoming CEO of the Commerce, I've been reading from our 4-volume hard copy edition of history as well. So this is a version of it. This is volume number 4. It stopped in 1974, and this is the most technologically innovative version of our history. I've committed with my team that we're going to do 1975 through 2015 for our 150th birthday. I'm very much looking forward to that. But reading this history, you recognize that technology has always played a role in banking and played an important role, and banks have been great innovators in that regard. If this speech was being made to the Empire Club in 1967, I'll put the book down because I feel like a preacher. Hold on. Okay. If it was being made to the Empire Club in 1967, I would have pulled a quote out from an early chronicler of our bank. The gentleman's name was Mr. C.F.E. Carpenter. 3 initials. Okay. And he would have made a prescient. This is what he said. Quote, "It was now possible to imagine," this is 1967, "not only a branch without the traditional ledgers, but also the computerized operation of the entire bank, with many of the branches, or here even the mind boggles," which is what he said, "the computerization of all financial transactions throughout a country, a continent, or the world." So that was pretty prescient, pretty forward-looking for 50 years ago. And I think we have to take that into note as we think about the future. So what would we say today? Well, I don't pretend to be an oracle on the future of financial services, but I'd like to offer you a perspective on the future of banking as I see it and CIBC's role in that landscape. If you believed all the doom and gloom today about banking, you'd believe that we're going to get wiped out. The Apples, the Googles, and all of the emerging players in the 2 valleys, whether it's the Silicon Valley or the Silicon Alley, are going to put us out of business. And I don't think that's the case at all. While there's still a lot going on in the world of banking these days, I can't imagine a more exciting time to be in financial services, particularly for CIBC as we build a strong, innovative, and relationship-oriented bank. All three factors which are going to be critically important as we move forward to face up against the competition and the partners that we'll be working with. The pace of change is unprecedented. Clients are adopting technology outside of banking and inside of banking at a very rapid clip. This uncertainty presents unique opportunities, and me and my team are going to embrace these opportunities as we go through these uncharted waters. So as we look at the developments in financial services, there's really three areas that we are spending time on, some more than others as technology emerges, and the first is clearly payments, where new entrants surface every day, hoping to play their role in the financial ecosystem, whether that be Apple Pay, PayPal, Square, or their Canadian equivalents that compete for a traditional role that banks play in the payment space. That's one area of focus. The other area of focus is in the peer-to-peer lending area, where firms like Lending Club, and certainly some of the firms that are emerging in Canada today, are playing an increasing role in redefining what lending is, particularly in the unsecured space, where individuals lend to individuals without a traditional financial institution involved. Bloomberg says that this peer-to-peer market is going to grow to $77 billion this year, and that's a 15-fold increase from three years ago. Things are changing rapidly. Consumers are looking to refinance credit card debt and unsecured debt for perhaps a more cost-effective means of financing their payments. And the third area of focus is on blockchain technology. So this is associated with creating a secure peer-to-peer version of electronic transfers without the involvement of an intermediary third party or banks, which are typically involved in these transactions. It uses this technology, this blockchain technology, uses digital assets, which could be anything from a currency like Bitcoin. It can play a role in security settlement. It can play a role in settling mortgage deeds. And it uses a ledger and private keys to pass information along from one user to the next in a secure fashion. I think it's still at an early stage, but I don't think it's something that we can afford to ignore. We are not the only financial institution that are interested in these three trends. It's happening around the world. But as I said to you at the outset, it's something that we've embraced from the very beginning. It's part of our heritage. It's part of our DNA. So when you look at CIBC's history, we've had a history of embracing technology. Here come the pictures. Pretty cool. We had in the 1950s and 60s, we were the first to launch a drive-through branch. We had a flying bank in northern Canada to service the remote communities. In fact, I was spent last week in Iqaluit, Whitehorse, and Yellowknife, where we have more branches than any of our competitors do. It's an important market to serve. We served it in the early 70s with an airplane. Today, you can serve it with a remote deposit check capture technology. We had a floating bank along the St. Lawrence River. And CIBC was the first bank, and you only learn this through your history, to launch a cash dispenser in Canada in 1969 at Cloverdale Mall, for those of you in the West End. We were also the first bank to install PCs in the branch network in 1985. I was a teller at CIBC at that time when I was attending the University of Toronto and worked part-time on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And the terminals that were being installed were branded Olivetti. Does anybody remember that name? Still in business, but not doing PCs for bank branches any longer. So our tradition of embracing technology has continued in recent years. We were the first to launch telephone banking in Canada. We were the first to launch online banking. We were the first to launch a mobile brokerage app, the first to launch mobile banking, e-deposit check capture, and a little over a month ago, being able to bank on your Apple Watch. This morning, we also were the first bank to announce our participation in SureTap, which is a new mobile open digital wallet technology that allows clients to store multiple payment cards in a single app and pay with their phone at thousands of retailers across Canada. 35% of them, if you read the article in the Globe today, have the technology to accept payments under $100 using the SureTap technology. It's the result of a joint effort between Bell, Rogers, and TELUS, and for us at CIBC, it reinforces our commitment to to work with our clients to provide them banking on their terms. Bank when you want, how you want, whichever device you want to use, and making it easy, flexible, and personalized. So our commitment as a bank is to continue to embrace technology. And as change accelerates, we will continue to embrace it as long as it makes sense for our clients and as long as it can be done so in a secure fashion. And as I look forward, the key for our success in this very fluid environment is to focus on three key things. The first principle is that technology and innovation that meets clients' needs has to be embraced. It will win the day. The second, and some may say, well, that's juxtaposed. I don't know how that works. But relationships matter now more than ever. And the third is that strength trumps size, but size is important. People, when they're dealing with their money, want safety and security. And those three elements together are what will define CIBC, and I'm sure some of our fellow competitors, as we go into the future. I'm going to talk about each of those three in this speech. So let's focus on the first one, technology and innovation. The digital revolution is changing all of our behaviors. I mean, we see it in the non-bank space. We see what's happened with Netflix. We got over 1 million Canadian users. Uber has become a regular term that we use in our house. Airbnb, they've all redefined, reshaped, and in some instances are ravaging their particular sectors. We see the same thing in electronic and mobile commerce. If you look at the rate of growth of mobile commerce this year, it's $14.1 billion is the forecast for 2017. The growth rate last year was 40% alone. The growth rate in mobile payments is something to focus on. Millennials, all of whom use technology, 1/4 of them are doing their shopping using their tablets or their smartphones. It's funny, things are changing so quickly. As a parent, I watch my kids and see what they're doing. They teach me about the things that I don't know about. One of my friends came up to me and said, you know what? We've got such a gap between the generations that my 18-year-old doesn't know how to mail a letter. I think that's true. Ask if you got a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid at home, ask them if they know how to address a letter and buy stamps. They're always on email or texting. So this focus on technology and innovation is being driven by our clients. Their needs are changing. They are expecting a couple of things from us as a bank. They're expecting their banking to be technologically oriented and incorporate in their technologically adept lives. They will only accept it if it's seamless, if it's easy to use, if it's cumbersome, if it's difficult. They will not accept it. And it's my firm belief that they'll only accept it if there's real people at the other end that can help them. Whether it be some of the students that we've hired this summer to be digital champions to help our clients migrate from paper to the technology in the branch, or whether it's somebody at the other end of the phone that they can speak to. People and the role of people in banking will not be disintermediated fully by technology. Similarly, when it comes to people, we have to change the way we work at CIBC. And we're doing that. We have to be more agile. We have to have a culture that focuses outwards. We have to have a culture that embraces technological developments instead of saying, no, we don't do it that way. And I take great comfort in our history because one very strong part of our DNA is that embracement of technology and recognition that there are new competitors on the horizon, that we need to get our smartest people to work on these biggest challenges in a unique environment. You need to be nimble and quick, and you need to recognize that you can't do it all alone. You can't say, I'm the big bank, we can solve this. You need to reach out to partners who have some of these new technologies that are relevant to our clients. We did that with our Tim Hortons Double card. Dynamics, a young upstart firm, had a 2-button technology that allowed clients to use 1 button for credit with their Tim Hortons Double Visa card for any purchases, and the other button was used for Tim's points. Now, the unique thing about this technology is you didn't need 2 cards. You had the loyalty card and the credit card all in one. It's a patented technology. It has other uses. We have 100,000 clients. And the best thing about the card, I think, aside from the fact that it's really cool, is it provides immediate gratification. You can buy a few things and you can get a Tim's coffee quite quickly, which isn't always the case with rewards cards. Our partnership with Mars is another example of innovation, moving our smart minds to a different campus surrounded by other smart minds working on unique technologies both within banking and outside banking. And candidly, what happened with the Apple Watch is from start to finish, it took us 7 weeks to launch the app. It was launched by co-op students and other young developers, supervised by adults. I don't want to give you any impression here that they were running amok. But they were working on this watch based on a proof of concept of what they thought clients would want without having the full Apple spec with them. And they designed it remotely. They got to spend some time with the team in Cupertino. And we were the first to launch that smart Apple Watch technology. And it's because we acted like a bank and like a startup. I don't want to give anybody the impression that we're acting like a startup. We are a bank. We are there to safeguard the deposits and investments of our clients, to make smart loans to our clients to help them grow their families and grow their businesses. But we acted like a bank and we acted like a technology company. And I think that's important as we go forward. So as you look at all of this, what are our clients doing? How are they behaving? Are they changing what they do? They certainly are. We launched e-deposit check capture in the fall of 2013, and since then, 4.3 million checks have been deposited. Now, that's a small portion of the overall checks that are being deposited, but we know that there are some clients that only bank that way. We understand that. And as they get more and more comfortable that when they take a picture of their check, the money will be there, they'll get comfortable with it. As they get more and more comfortable with the fact that you can't take the picture of the check twice and deposit it twice, they'll get more comfortable with it. But it's interesting. I'm not making, I talked to my 17-year-old Thomas yesterday. He was working at the Blue Jays, sort of selling popcorn and soda in Section 500, and he got his 2 checks. He had to go pick them up at Gate 3, which I thought was kind of archaic. And I said, so what are you going to do with them? Why don't you take a picture? He goes, I don't do that. I said, okay, why not? I said, why don't you go to the ATM? I'm not kidding it. Last night, I don't do that. I said, what do you do? He goes, I go get my check stamped so I can see the money's in the bank. Interesting. So behaviors will take some time to change, but we'll have to have that technology in place because people will embrace it over time. So the biggest change has been this. Not the iPhone, but the use of mobile technology to bank. We now have 30 million logins a month. It grew by 36% since the last year. We only have 4 million branch visits a month. This has been the channel of choice. It's actually surpassed the computer. And now, we also know that 80% of our transactions are conducted outside the branch. We've looked at the last 20%, and that is going to increase over time. So, clients are changing their behavior in retail and personal and business banking. The same thing's happening in our wholesale bank. We were the first to launch an electronic trading platform amongst the big banks in Canada. We're a leader in the equity capital markets business. We've seen significant growth in our FX business over the past number of years because the team had made a strategic decision to invest in technology and allow our corporate, commercial, and pension clients direct access to FX trading at a very competitive rate in a very real time. And the same thing's happening with our derivatives capability, where we've seen our business grow because of the technology investments that we've made. And I'm very proud of the fact that we were chosen the best derivatives bank in Canada by Global Capital magazine. So, clients are changing their behavior, we're enabling them, and technology is ignored at our peril. We're embracing it, and we're working with our clients to make banking easier and more flexible. Just a sip of water here. That brings me to my second point. People will say, well, you're being disintermediated. Someone stepped between you and the client. I think in some instances there will be disintermediation on the purely transactional account. But in my experience in banking, in retail banking and wealth management, and I know in our wholesale bank, relationships matter, and they matter now more than ever. Our clients want to know that there's a person at the other end of the transaction who knows who they are and who has the right information for them if they have a question to ask or if they need a need settled. Yes, routine banking can be done quickly and easily using technology, but they want to know a live person is there. Since becoming CEO, I've met with over 150 CEOs of other companies to understand what their needs are. And I can tell you, as far as my eye can see, technology is not going to step in between us and them in terms of us satisfying the relationship that we have together. the relationship that is there to help their businesses grow. Now, people ask me, well, what about the branch? The branch is certainly going to change. Technology is going to make the branch obsolete. And here again, I would say there's nothing further from the truth. We know that everybody uses the branch almost once a year, even the very young people. Under 18, maybe a little less, but as their needs become more sophisticated, they will be there. The branch will change. The branch will be there, but the nature of what's done inside the branch will change. It will move from transactions to relationship building, to personalized and thoughtful financial advice. And I think that will hold true as the boomers hand over their wealth to the millennials. There may be room for the robo-advisors, but when it comes to your complicated affairs, particularly where there's more money involved, a person can provide that advice because they can understand the emotive aspects of what you're dealing with in addition to the transactional aspects. And the branch will play a particularly important role, even in its current form, over the next 10 years. Why do I say that? Well, we're building a bridge to the future when it comes to branch banking. And the complexity of building this bridge is we're trying to satisfy the millennials who don't see the branch that often, who are more interested in unique technology, to the traditionalists who want to walk into the branch every week. And I don't want to pick on my mother because I love her dearly, but I have to in this instance. She came to this country from Croatia in 1964. She's become a very proud Canadian, but she is stubborn when it comes to her banking. She will not go to an ATM. She will not pay her bills online, and she will not download her latest app. And I'm not kidding you. On a Saturday, she said, my dad's not well, she said, can you drive me to the branch? People would like to see you. I said, Mom, I'm not going there. You're going to embarrass me. I sound like my teenage daughter. Why are you going to embarrass me? Because you're going to wait in line with your passbook and your bills, and we could have actually alleviated the lineup and done that at home. Doesn't trust it yet. She will at some point in time. Funny thing is, she came out of that branch and she said the lineup was so long. I said, Mom, you're part of the problem. So, anyway, it takes a long time to convince your mother. And then another story. This just gives you an idea of how complex it is in terms of building this bridge to the future. A gentleman who runs our executive floor, he's been with our bank for 35 years, comes up to me before the Christmas holidays, said, Victor, we have a problem at one of our branches. I said, what's the problem, Nick? He said, the clients are up in arms. I said, why? He said, we installed a new, ATM. I said, yeah. He said, it has no paper. I said, good. He goes, it has no envelopes. I said, good, Nick. He goes, they don't like depositing their checks with no envelopes. I said, but that's the way of the future. He said, but they don't like it. He said, they really don't like the fact that you can't print your passbook inside the ATM because we're trying to move away from a passbook. Who has a passbook in this room? Anyone care to admit it? Okay. You probably all do. But it gives you a sense of the challenge because the clients that lean traditionally are the clients that have the deposits. They're the clients who have established those relationships that can't simply be unplugged. And yet we have to build this bridge to the future. So the challenge in the branch banking channel is going to affect everybody. It's affecting our team because they need to get used to these new technologies, and yet they need to build those relationships to encourage those who are traditionalists to move to the new technologies and are highly reluctant. We try to encourage them to do that. It's difficult because you're dealing with emotion. You're dealing with people and their feelings and their way of doing things. It's challenging for our clients. We try and be as seamless as possible. We try and be as high touch as possible. But as they transact through different channels, the challenge of making sure that we understand how they're transacting and the nature of their relationship is going to be incredibly important. And how we manage that data capital to strengthen that relationship is going to be critical for us. And it's going to be a challenge for our shareholders because they want to see positive operating leverage, which is completely understandable. So our goal as a leadership team at CIBC is to be able to manage our traditional expenses in a finer way and redeploy some of that money in an accelerated fashion into new technology. So our branch network will change, but it will be there. If you want to see what it looks like in the future, go to Whistler. For those of you who like to ski, it's the most modern. It has no teller wickets. If you want to see a right-sized branch for the future, go to Avenue Road in Eglinton or Queen in Sudbury. Even if you work at the other banks, you should go there anyway. Maybe you can open an account. We welcome all business. But we're going to be there to meet our clients' needs irrespective of how things are changing, and the branch network will be there as well. And the third point I want to stress, I said at the beginning, a key ingredient of success going forward is that strength trumps size, but size is important. So I think you see what's happening in the world of banking today. Things are changing dramatically in terms of what's most important, size or agility, technology, relationships. I can tell you this, that in the new regulatory environment, the global banking model is being challenged. We face new regulations on a regular basis, whether they come through the Basel III Accord to some of the domestic regulatory change that we're seeing here, all in the interests of making banks safe and sound. If you look at our country's Bank Act, its focus is on maintaining safety and stability. It's served us well both here and it's served us well reputationally in the international arena. In fact, the Bank Act talks about us as being deposit-taking institutions and not technology companies, which is why I said at the beginning, we need to be a bank and we need to be a technology company. In my view, the operational complexity of operating globally is challenging. There aren't evident economies of scale, particularly in the commercial and personal and commercial banking space. And I see some of the numerical challenges that global competitors are facing today. You see ROEs of large, well-known global banks that have ROEs in the 4 to 8% range. Ours is in the 20 range. Anything above 10 or 11, according to my finance class, is where you're increasing shareholder value. Anything below that, you're not. And part of that challenge comes from a large global model without a distinct focus. So I look forward and say, what does strength look like in the new environment? And I think it has a couple of key areas. One is the strong regional focus that I talked about. We're going to be strong and regional. Our home base is Canada. We have an operation in the Caribbean, and we have offices in other parts of the globe, but our heart will be here, and we will grow into the U.S., where our clients are increasingly doing business on a north-south basis. When it comes to transacting globally, we're going to rely more on partnering with like-minded organizations to help our clients access those global markets and financial transactions. I think the second thing that banks need to increasingly focus on is stable, high-quality deposits to fund quality assets versus a growing reliance on wholesale funding. And I think that's what the global banks now will be challenged with. How do they sell those assets to reduce their reliance on global funding when it's not evident that there are ready buyers there, at least at the price that they're thinking they can transact at? I think a bank of the future is going to be smart and relentless when it comes to focusing on costs. It won't be just throw money at it. It'll be much more of a focus on cost IQ, intelligent decisions and trade-offs. I know we're very much involved with that at CIBC today because our shareholders want positive operating leverage. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so. Over the medium term, we will deliver that so we can enhance shareholder value, but that cost IQ is going to be a valued organizational trait in financial services. The final thing, and importantly, very importantly, is just strength from a cybersecurity and data capital perspective. You know, banks have always become the stewards of shareholder capital since their inception. There were always shareholders involved, and it was all about returning capital to shareholders in the form of increasing share prices or dividend growth. But now we also are entrusted with our clients when it comes to data capital. We are the stewards of that data along with our clients. And here, the industry needs to work together. All banks, all financial institutions, all wealth managers, and our 3 levels of government need to work together to make sure that Canada, our country, is seen as a safe and secure place in which to transact digitally, where client data is always protected. That's going to be critical, and I know that we're working in a very cooperative fashion to ensure that safety and security, because I also know at the same time that there are those who are trying to disrupt us in a very negative fashion to the detriment of the country and the industry. But we will prevail in that regard. So let me just go back to CIBC one more moment. I've got 9 seconds left. You're going to have to give me a minute and 9 seconds. We're going to embrace these changes. We're now in the midst of reinventing our bank from top to bottom. by making sure that we can evolve from the traditional bank to the bank of the future. And this challenge was presented to us 150 years ago, when those who pioneered banking in this country, including those who pioneered banking at our bank, which was started 148 years ago, saw this as a big challenge, but saw this as a big opportunity, and there was no turning back. My trip last week to the great north of our country not only made me feel more Canadian, but it also made me recognize that there were pioneers up there very early on who were asked by the government to follow clients and prospective clients to help finance them during the gold rush. And in some ways, we're going through that again, all over again, pioneering in the space of technology. And we will embrace this opportunity because, like 150 years ago, I don't think there's any turning back. We're going to focus on technology. We're going to focus on our client relationships because they're incredibly important to us. And we're going to focus on making sure that we're strong, safe, and stable. But in the end, the most important thing is what our tagline now says. We've gone from "for what matters" to banking that fits your life. It's an exciting time to be the captain of the CIBC team. This is a team effort as we go to build a strong, innovative, and relationship-oriented bank. I'd like to thank my team, those of you who are present today, and those of you who make all of this happen, because it doesn't happen with the waving of a magic wand. A lot of smart people are working on this. And I'd also like to thank our clients, because we would not exist without our clients. If you're not a client and you'd like to open an account, I will be outside. I'm serious. And I wanted to thank the Empire Club for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
So we're ready to do a little bit of a Q&A. We have time for a few questions from the audience. Do we have any questions for Mr. Dodig?
Mr. McPhail has a question there. It's not a plant.
Yes, go ahead.
Victor, where do you see Bitcoin fitting into the Canadian banking system?
So I see the underlying technology of what blockchain is meant to do. I read the white paper from the founder of that technology. And there's a lot of logic to what underpins it. Bitcoin is an element of, it's an electronic currency. I think the technology can wrap itself around a currency. I think it can wrap itself around a contract. So I think it can play a role. The saving of the data in terms of the chain that's involved, I've read some on that technology as well as our team has. I think there's a lot to be understood there in terms of its ability to have scale in financial services. It's not clear to me that it is more foolproof from outside attacks than any other system we have today. So that's the way I see it. It's very early, it's very emerging. I applaud what the City of London's done with their Level 39 kind of initiative, where you've got financial institutions coming together to understand that technology and its relevance to the financial system. So it's something, Steve, as I said, one of the three areas we're focused on.
Any other questions from the audience? I have one.
Oh.
In this highly complex world,
Yes.
How do you tell the difference between a competitor and a partner?
I grew up in the financial services business where I always thought about there's room to work together as long as the value proposition becomes enhanced to the clients. I mean, I think in the early example of that in banking is, where we all of a sudden allowed non-bank fund companies to play a role in our channels, right? Because our view was it's better for our clients to have choice. It's better for our clients not to, quote unquote, simply get home cooking, but get best of breed. And I think that holds true for technology as well. We would not be able to do the SureTap technology without working with partners. Some may say, well, the telcos will become banks. But my answer to that is fine, we can compete, but in some instances we're going to have to find ways to cooperate, because we do need to deliver together for our clients what they're looking for, because we do it better that way economically than doing it separately. So it's kind of co-opetition, if you can call it that.
That's a great term. One more question.
Is the government and the regulators keeping pace with the amount of change that's going on in the banking system?
I think is our government or our governments and our regulators keeping pace with the amount of change that's going on? I think they are. I'm sure all of you read the article in the Globe this Saturday around regulation when it comes to peer-to-peer lending. Are they securities companies? Are they banks? I mean, everyone is trying to do their very best to keep up with the pace. I would say that one of the things that we're all holding true to is the safety, security, and stability of the system is more important than the pace of change. That doesn't mean the pace of change will be slow. It just means that the stable, secure system is, I think, something that all Canadians have come to value, and it's something that it's at the forefront of anything we discuss as an industry with our regulators and with our governments.
One more question.
What do you see as the key talent gaps as your environment is changing, and maybe inside the bank and inside the sector?
Well, I mean, the increasing demands, I know Kevin Patterson, our head of technology operations, I see Dave Ravel, I see some of our CIBC folks who work on that. It's challenging. It's challenging in a number of ways. One is demand is outstripping supply. And I think that's where I think there'll be a generational adjustment in terms of education. If you look at, for example, some of the mobile apps that we've been working on, when I went to visit the team there, a lot of the kids had diplomas from Sheridan and Humber, so they can hit the ground running and deliver to clients what they want, and not necessarily a general degree. So that specific knowledge is going to be incredibly important, and I think our education system has to kind of address that, to address the supply-demand gap. The other thing, I think you have to make it interesting to keep young people here. They're not really interested in a defined benefit plan because they don't even know what that is, right? They want interesting projects. They want interesting environments. And as I said in my speech, attracting the best and the brightest means putting them in a different environment, giving them an accelerated timeline, making sure the funding's there, making sure that they can see the funding is there further out, that it doesn't dry up, so that they can enhance their career and their skill set going forward. Incredibly good question. Big challenge. Thank you, everyone. Andrea, can I give you the microphone?
Yes,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rob Livingston to thank our speaker today.
Thank you very much. I'm representing Visa Canada, and as a company, we are thrilled to be here today to support Victor and the entire team at CIBC in this honor of speaking to the Empire Club of Canada. As a global technology company, we have the pleasure of working with banks all around the world, and CIBC really stands out not just for getting technology, but actually seeing where it's going around the corner. And in Canada, and even on a global basis, CIBC on a regular basis is pioneering new businesses and new models with Visa. So thank you once again for speaking to us. It was a pleasure, and please join me once again in thanking Victor.
Please indulge me. I'd like to take a moment before you all head off on your way to reflect on the past year that we've had, and in particular to thank a couple of people who have contributed enormously to our success this year. We have had a great season. We started the season, and we're ending our season, with bank CEOs. We had Ed Clark, who chose us as his podium to deliver his retirement address. And today, Victor, we're very honored to have you in what I believe is your first public address. So thank you for giving us the honor. We had technology titans. We had Eric Schmidt at the beginning of the season. You'll all know the exec chair of Google. We had Jim Balsillie. We have had incredible speakers. We hosted a debate among the mayoral candidates and then hosted the successful mayor. We've had politicians, business leaders, and just last week, the Governor General of Canada. Powering that success was a formidable speakers committee led by my co-director and our president-elect, Gordon McIver. Gordon, would you please join me at the podium? Gordon, thank you. Gordon has been an incredible source of support to me all year, and I want to say thank you very much for everything you've done this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gordon and I also wanted to thank two people. There you are. Jahan and Taylor, please join us on the stage. Jahan Carson is managing director of the club, and Taylor Reed is the club's event manager. Jahan and Taylor are the people who actually make these lunches run and make them run very smoothly indeed. They organize the venues, they arrange the AV support, they do all of the marketing and promotion and ticket sales for the events. They're absolutely the best in the business, and they make our jobs easy. Jahan and Taylor, thank you for all of your support this year and for being the engines that make the club work. Thanks, Gordon. Before we leave today, I'd like to take a moment to thank the generous sponsors of today's lunch. Thank you to Visa, and thanks to my colleagues at TELUS. I'd also like to thank Centennial College for providing the volunteers who help us with each lunch, and the National Post is our print media sponsor. This meeting will be broadcast on Rogers TV. To learn more about membership and about upcoming events, visit us online at www.empireclub.org. You can also follow us on Twitter at empire_club. Thank you all for joining us today. We are already hard at work on a great lineup for next year and hope to see you next season. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.